cracking, everybody? New video, and seems like you guys get a kick out of these YA stories, and it's a damn shame because I would rather do positive videos, something more with a message, but it seems like those videos don't go nowhere. So I'm over here trying to think, like, you guys know I'm not into telling prison stories, so YA, we can tell a YA story. So when I did the video on the response to Gunner's 805, his video about, those of us from the 805 and why there was only a couple dudes that said that it seemed like I was taking a shot at the homies from Los. I don't get that because in the video I said, two of my tights were from LA, East LA and Compton. And then and in the video I said the barrio that was the downest, and I'll stick to it. NYA or the joint, the dudes that I met that were like, every one of them I met was a fool, was South Los, so. But we're going to talk about an incident, a day, or we'll just say an incident, YA. So, Rick, I saw Rick, you were commenting on my live about Cayucos. In Paso, there's a compa called Cayucos. And Cayucos was the one compa, the one unit in Paso, the only one that the numbers were pretty even between Raza and blacks. Like I mentioned before, I was on Napomo. In Napomo, there was 13 Mexicans and 3 whites. Okay. Moro was next to us. Moro and Napomo were like the two compas that were known to be rocking all the time. Now, to me, Napomo was the one though. Napomo was they probably had 20 maybe Raza over there. But those are the 3 what they called main lines, because all the other units you had Avenal, which was the kitchen unit. You had Shalam, which was the pro violators. You had San Simeon, which was the college students. You had the Los Osos East, Los Osos East, Los Osos West, which were the drug programs. And then you had Napomo and Moro, right? And then you had Cambria, which was their little shoe program. And then you had Nacimiento, which was the box. So out of the 3, what they called mainline, which were the banging units, was Napomo, Moro, and Cayucos. And I named them in that order on purpose. And like I said, Cayucos was pretty even in numbers. And because of that, it was not... I know I could already hear it. There's going to be vatos that were in Cayucos that are going to be upset about this video. But I'm going to say this. 1991, 1990, Cayucos had 0 riots. There was some gangbanging going on over there, but they had 0 riots. And, I'll give you an example of what I had said in the 805 video. How it was harder for dudes that weren't from LA. There were 2 dudes, only 2 dudes that were on Cayucos that weren't from LA County. Only 2. One from National City and one from Bakers. And I want to say he was a resident from Bakers because he was like a goofball. The goofball dude, I think he played the goofball role and he slid by without much problems because he made people laugh and would, I don't know. I was in one class with him in the school area and everybody knew who he was, and, he wasn't very impressive. But the dude from National City, from San Diego, um, he was no chump, no punk, nothing. And yet they would boot his lock. You know, boot that you'd spin it zero and then spin it zero, spin it zero, and you hit it with a boot and the whole thing would come apart. And they would boot his lock. Like he would get in a fight with somebody and then somebody would go steal his shit. He would come back, he would throw a fuck, and he would get down with everybody that had something in his, get his shit back. And this was a constant thing. And because of that, um, eventually one of his homeboys came, Woody from the Insane Boys. I'll say his name. Woody was a fool. Um, and the two dudes from National City actually wound up getting into a melee with the dudes from Florencia because of all the stuff that had been happening. But, you know, they were fucking with the homie from National City and nobody else because, one, he wasn't from Los, but he did have like a pompadour. And that was one thing in why you were not allowed to be an individual when it came to your hair. Well, kind of like in the joint too, with your hair. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna be running around with a disco haircut and making people look bad. And people took it personal. And because he had so much heart and wouldn't, he was like, fuck it. And I remember asking him later, he came to my unit. And I remember asking him, like, hey, Holmes, how come you never just, you know, after you had got down with everybody, how come you didn't just say, you know what, I'm gonna fucking cut my hair? And he was like, because more than half of these vatos have this same haircut on the streets. He goes, they're just pussies and they're scared. They don't want to fight all day over it. He goes, I'll fucking fight all day. That dude was a nut, man. But anyways, so again, Cayucos got their shit right in 1992. But I want to tell you about an incident. So one day we were lining up for a school movement, right? Third block school movement. That's the one after lunch. And Nipomo used to come out and line up at the same time that Cayucos would. Cayucos would line up in front of their unit. We would line up in front of ours, which is across the little quad, the grassy area in the middle. And so, Nipomo, we're already out, boom, and we're lining up. And then, I'm looking over, a few of us were looking over, and the gate opened from the yard. The Hura opened the gate, boom, so the dudes could come out from the yard gate instead of the front door of the unit, which is normally everybody goes through the unit door. And as the gate swung open, a couple dudes walked through, and then you see a vato from Florencia. I don't want to say his name, but you see a vato from Florencia, and he's walking, boom. And the next thing you know, he's getting jumped by 3 East Coast, and they're whooping him. They have him against the fence, and they're on his ass, right? And we're looking from across the quad, and we're looking like, what the fuck? There was a lot of dudes from Florence in that unit, right? And nobody jumped. Nothing happened. He got packed out, and I remember we were looking like, what the fuck? And so that night on my unit, there was a junta. There was a meeting, right? And we all went to the corner of the yard, and it was decided by the dudes that were running the unit, Nipomo, right? And they said, listen, what happened today was embarrassing to all raza. We don't know why them fools let that shit happen. And these dudes didn't even like, I'm going to tell you, the dudes, I don't think the guerra has started yet between South Los and Florence. I think they were actually still close. But the other dude was from 18, right? And those were the two dudes running on the Pomo. And they were like, we don't even like these dudes, but we're not going to stand for this. And they said, so tomorrow, we're going to fucking go to the school area. And every vato that we see from Cayucos, we're going to tell them that they don't have a choice. That the day after that, when we line up for third block movement, Napomo's going to kick a riot off. We're going to rush all the blacks for what happened in their unit. And we want them to kick it off in their unit. And we're going to make everybody rush towards the middle. And the thing was, is because we were so outnumbered that we were like, it would be beneficial for us if Cayucos gets involved, which is it's their issue and not ours. We're trying to fucking make up for what they allowed to happen, because technically the way it was that whole unit was supposed to be dropped leva for not jumping, right? And so it was like, okay, we're gonna get off. We're gonna push them your way. You push yours our way, and we'll meet in the middle of the quad in the grass, and everybody just get your money, right? So we go to school the next day, boom. And so um, the classes that I had, I told the vatos like, hey, you're in Cayucos? Yeah. Well, check this out. This is what's happening. We're getting off tomorrow. And who's getting off? Your compa, like our compas. Like what just happened, you guys allowed that to happen. It ain't cool. We look bad. So both of our units are gonna get off. And you can see like the two dudes that I talked to were kind of like, what? And we were like, yeah, and so sure enough, the next day, third block movement, boom, line it up. So they open the door, we all lined up. And we're looking over at Cayucos, boom, and they're lining up. And as soon as our Juras told us move out, because that was supposed to be the agreement. When they say move out, it's on, right? So when the Juras said move out, it went down, right? And I guess it was a Cayucos watched the whole thing, eh? Cayucos sat down, all of them, because they put it down, but they had the best seat in the house, I guess, We we and then people are gonna say that's bullshit, this fool's capping and this and that. But we smashed. For being outnumbered the way we were, we smashed. I mentioned it in another video before. That day, it was me, and two other dudes. There was a black dude from Grape that everybody in the unit knew he was snitching. When shit was going on in the dorm, we knew he was snitching, and nobody was ever dealing with this dude. So myself and two other dudes, we got him, and during the riot, I thought we killed him. Like I thought he was dead, and so that's when the three of us moved off of him, and we moved on to someone else. And it was crazy because when the riot was over, and like everybody was throwing their battery packs, you could just see the battery packs flying, and the dude that I thought we killed was actually on all fours crawling, and he had crawled. Those of you that were in Boston, he had crawled from Napomo all the way across the quad to almost Avenal. He was on the road, like on the curb where it goes to Avenal, and when he realized like the riot was finally over and he wasn't, nobody was gonna attack him anymore, he just, he laid down. His jaw had got broken and I think it was 3 places. His skull was fractured, like it was bad, right? And the crazy thing is he actually testified in court, and he blamed a big white boy and a homie from South Los. I guess he didn't want it to be known that, because the three of us that got him, we were all little dudes. You know what I mean? Little dudes. And I guess it was more important for him to make it seem like these two big dudes got him. But anyways, that was our day, And there was a second riot that night, right after Chow. Boom, it jumped again. It was ugly, because the first one we caught everybody off guard, and they say there's a fight or flight reaction. That first one, there was a lot of flight. A lot of the dudes that did a lot of this, there was a lot of flight in them, and they broke. But the second time around, no siree. And you know what's crazy? I forgot to mention this part. So the night before when we had the junta, the the Bloods approached, the homie from 18, the homie from South Los, and they were like, "Hey, can we talk to you?" And the homie's like, "Yeah, what's up?" And they straight out, they said, "Look, we know you guys had a meeting over that incident in Cayucos. We don't have a problem with you guys. None of the Bloods want beef with you guys. If you guys are gonna go at the Crips, we'll jump in." And the homies were like, "Listen, if you guys want to stay out the way, stay out the way. Line up where you guys are all in the same spot during the movement, but don't get involved in this. We got to handle this." And that was the plan, man. But unfortunately, the three white boys that were in our unit were actually down. The white dudes, the three whites that we had were down. And unfortunately, they didn't know the difference between a Crip and a Blood. And so one of them socked the shot caller from the Bloods. And so as soon as not one Blood ran, I'll tell you that right now, not one. And and people don't realize because being a Blood now, ever since Tupac and Death Row, being a Blood, became more popular. But everybody that was around in the 80s and 90s knows back then the Bloods were short, but they were tough. You know what I mean? Because you had to be tough to be a Blood. There wasn't a lot of them, and them dudes all spun around and were getting it. We were getting busy. But yeah, that's my story about Cayucos and how they watched a very good fight, very good riot. It all started because of them, and they watched it. But like I said, 1991, 1990, 1991, Cayucos was not. They were just, everybody was over there having a good time. They had it going on in that unit, man. The senior cop over there used to do casino night over there, a bunch of shit. They had a lot of programming. Dudes were getting down with their enemigos, but they weren't doing the racial war thing that was happening in the other compas. And, you know, there were some serious motherfuckers over there, but for whatever reason, they just weren't engaging, and they allowed that thing to happen that we weren't feeling. And, you know, but 1992 came around, Cayucos. I remember seeing them dudes go to Gym TD. Those of you that were in Paso that know what Gym TD is, it ain't no joke. So they started getting busy over there. And there was actually, a lot of it was instigated by the dudes from Florence. But there you go with another YA story. Too long. Thank you for sticking around. Tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out.